Phasmophobia is the greatest co-op game ever to be released. Now that is a big statement in a world full of co-op games, but I'm going to explain why authenticity is its key ingredient that very few games can match. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we are talking Phasmophobia, and it's really an updated review that I want to give here. Bit of background, the usual stuff, gameplay, sound, graphics, the like that we always talk about, but I do want to focus in particular around the core mechanic of the co-op. So for those of you who've not played Phasmophobia, what on earth is it? You are effectively a ghost hunter. You don't have guns in this game, which is the first key ingredient actually to add, that you can't really protect yourself. It's not like there's a safety net when you walk in to these areas trying to hunt down a ghost. But what makes it in particular special is that it really needs to be played in terms of a co-op with friends ideally, but you can play with random people online. When you do play with your friends though, it's allowing a maximum of 4 people to play. You go into houses together, you have a raft of tools that you can use to try and find out what that particular ghost is. Now if you get that ghost correct and you just put it in your journal, you can leave the house. Hey ho, you get a load of money, you get some experience, you can buy more stuff and then go on to a more difficult level. So that's the basic premise of it. So I want to jump straight into the gameplay here and really talk about this in more detail. So what is so unique, I think, about Phasmophobia is the way in which there are phases, and it's the phases that take the same kind of routine each time. So the first 5 minutes of any mission is really the setup phase. In that, you and your team will be discussing, what tools to take. You can only take a maximum of 3 tools at one time, and so there is always this kind of tactical choice of who takes what, when and where and how. Then you have those 5 minutes. Now in those 5 minutes, the ghost could potentially appear, you might find some activity, but your goal in that first 5 minutes is really to find the location of that ghost. Now again, what makes this so important is that the developers have kind of introduced a randomness to each level. The ghost will appear in a different place each and every time. Likewise, it will be a different ghost each and every time. Likewise, each ghost has its own unique set of traits, and so it can be quite difficult to find where the ghost is, what that ghost is doing, and what type of ghost it might be. Once that 5 minutes is up, that is when you start to see the ghost becoming far more prevalent, far more active, and it can go into hunt mode if you piss it off. The way that you can piss off a ghost is by what you say. And so you can be talking to your mates, you can be talking to randoms, you might even say the ghost's name, which will be in the journal, you can reference that. But if you say the wrong thing or you ask the questions, the ghost can respond. And that is wonderful, because that means that there is never really a time when you are safe, just simply when you're talking to your mates. Now in that second phase, you start to find more and more things happening. There might be a basketball that just flies across the room, or a picture falls off the wall. It could just be that one of your friends sees it but no one else does. Again, it's a lovely little detail, but there are things that then cause that anxiety within your group. Now by the end of phase 2, you'll be in a position where you'll have quite a lot of evidence, and you're almost down to the last couple of ghosts really onto what it can be. And that is when you enter phase 3. Now phase 3 really is the risk phase. This is the part where you might only have 3 ghosts left to choose from. You've got to go back in to the house, into the room with certain equipment. However, by this point, your energy, if you want to call it that, or as they have it in the game, sanity, will be quite low. And the lower your sanity gets, the more the ghost will appear, the more things that will happen around you. And so the risk phase here is where people will start dying and the ghost will come up and get you. And it's at this point, this is the point where you and your mates are I tell you what, it is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because you have so many laughs along the way, and there is nothing better than seeing your mate who you've had a beer with perhaps the day before talking all the bravado, screaming like a little girl as he walks into a little bathroom to try and catch Johnny the ghost. And so this is the one ingredient that I want to talk about, which I think makes Phasmophobia stand out above any other co-op game that is out there, and that is authenticity. And then what do I mean when I say authenticity? Well, it's simple. 100% of the game that you play with your friends is authentic because everyone is having an emotional reaction to what is going on around them. Your friend might see a picture fall off the wall and they are reacting to that live in the moment. You might be experiencing something completely different in a different part of the house. It's the way that you communicate that experience together, and ultimately it's the emotion that starts to build throughout the level, and it kind of evaporates into this crescendo of relief once either you've died or once you've discovered the ghost. Now, I'm not dismissing other co-op games such as, A Way Out or the Halos of the world or Gears of War, whatever it might be that you play with your friends. They are good fun, and you can have good tactical shooters. You can have moments where, you're taking on the enemy, but I don't think it has the same level of authenticity that a game like Phasmophobia has. Now, do you need 4 mates to play this with? Absolutely not. The great thing is that there are levels or missions that they've designed that are huge, that might have 3 floors and 50 odd rooms, and you need a team of 4 to go around and try and find the ghost. Likewise, just 2 of you can go around in the smaller levels that might just be a house and try and find the ghost. You can play online with randoms. It's obviously very much dependent on how that goes. With randoms, it's the same with any game, so hit and miss. And yes, you can't really play this single player. Don't get me wrong, there's some great YouTubers out there that do play this single player, but the fun is to be had with your mates for sure. And the great thing is the price of this, honestly, it's like usually $15 or so. It is amazing. Honestly, the amount of value you get out of this compared to other games is sensational. So definitely check this out if you have a group of mates. Now, really quickly, I just want to talk through some of the things that we normally talk about. So graphics, graphics aren't wonderful. There's some nice effects. There's some lovely lighting effects and volumetric fog and lights that can happen, and it kind of all adds to the atmosphere. Really though, the purpose is that the game is kind of played in the dark a lot anyway. There is some jankiness with the characters, which gives it its charm. It's not going to win, awards for its graphics. However, it is worth noting that I think a game like this needs to be accessible to as many people as possible when it is online, and it caters for those lower end systems for sure. It opens it up to a whole raft of players, and so I do think as well that has been taken into consideration. I have far more concerns around the graphics when I'm playing single player games, and I expect the polish to be there all over, but this for sure is passable. It absolutely scares the shit out of you when you see some of these ghosts that appear. Again, they can be a bit janky, but for that reason their faces can be also horrifying when you just experience it out the blue on your own. Now, Kinetic Games, who developed this, what they really got right here is the sound. Any horror lives and breathes off sound, and they have done a great job here in understanding that fact. I've already mentioned how your chatter between your teammates can activate the ghost, and so they've been very clever in kind of capitalizing on that. But let's talk about the other things that you'll hear. Now, generally speaking, it's just kind of the hum of the electronics that you might be holding that's really giving you the sound. There isn't kind of a musical backdrop or anything of the sorts, but it will be those moments where you hear a door creaking, or you might hear footsteps above you, or the car alarm will suddenly go off, etc. They are the frightening moments. They are the moments that you can feel your heart racing. And again, they just kind of build this crescendo that goes throughout the game, gets your nerves going, gets you and your friends nervous just from what they're hearing, and it really is so well implemented that I wish more games would consider, I guess, using less sound to make the sound good, and this is what it does so well. Phasmophobia now has a bit of a cult following, really. I mean, and quite rightly so. It's a game that I continue to go back to with my friends, and I know this review of sorts is kind of late to the game, but it's an updated review, because the other thing that I am so impressed with are the updates that continue to come out of Kinetic games. New maps are being released, new tools are being released, new ghosts are always coming out. It's getting to a point where, quite frankly, they could quite happily release some DLC. I would happily pay for it. I mean, the free updates that I've got, I've been so impressed with. But genuinely speaking, it's just a magnificent game. The way they've implemented everything, the way that they've got every system working together, makes this co-op game special. No other co-op game comes close to it in terms of how it works. Quite rightly, it's been winning awards because of that. I implore you to check it out. It's not a lot of money. These are the sorts of games that we need in the industry for sure. And with that, guys, thanks for listening. Don't shoot yourself if you play it. Speak to you soon.